President Peacenik has ended his 29th or maybe 51st war, the one between Rwanda and the DR Congo. Of course, fighting continues there, killing thousands. But on the critical aspect, U.S. Trump family access to minerals, great strides have been taken. Granted, the minerals are needed for electric cars, which have been defunded, but also for cell phones, which can be used to watch videos of cats trying to end wars with other cats. Without Trump's help, their efforts are doomed. The mineral deal also helps the U.S. against China, which should solve Africa, right? The purported peace deal is also endangered by the decision of the Soccer Federation, FIFA, to create a special peace prize for the president. That success could cause him to move on from peace in the world to his original goal, the world in pieces. In other electric news, DJT's DOT is slashing auto fuel efficiency standards, which will save Americans $109 billion, which they'll need for the ticket to escape a dead Earth and journey to some other dead planet. Then again, the savings may not materialize, as they are dependent on both smoke and mirrors. If you can recall that the first automobiles were electric, and that General Motors, Firestone, and Standard Oil destroyed public transit in those days, you know too much, and are on the terrorist list, under knowledge terrorism. In this week's Bondage with Bondi, Homeland Girl ordered up a list of domestic terrorist organizations, like Quakers and the War Resisters League. Well, that's next week's list. But anyway, the list includes anyone opposing jackbooted thugs terrorizing America's cities, anyone claiming to see more than two genders, which terrorizes the first two, those who are anti-Christian, which means anti-capitalism, anti-capitalists, because the Christian God made capitalism and Satan made socialism, and anti-American. Anti-American, an Orwell term meaning anti-Charlie Kirk, or anyone insufficiently pro-fa. Also, those who are hostile to traditional views on family, religion, and morality. Everybody knows that America is big enough for only one opinion. If you want to find out whether your views are hostile to America, ask Big Brother, or in this case, Big Homeland. Those wishing to enforce that one opinion and or receive a reward for thinking on anti-American differers can call 1-800-YES-KINGS. The directive directs patriotic thinks to pay special attention to book clubs. But don't worry, if you haven't read a book, you have nothing to worry about. To sum up, Antifa is Al-Qaeda or Quaker. President Donald J. Klepto says the word affordability doesn't mean anything, that it's a con job. When he was the affordability president last week, was that a con job? A stupid reporter asked, before being banned from White House press confabulations. If, for the sake of arg, he isn't and wasn't the affordability prez, and it's a con job anyway, is he, therefore, a con? Is he a hoax? Is he a billionaire-class wet dream? Register your vote at 1-800-PUT-ME-ON-THE-TERRORIST list. The national parks will shift their free entry day from MLK's birthday to DJT's birthday. You could make this stuff up, but why bother? Oh, also Juneteenth. So the freeing of the slaves and the leader who promised black people would be free at last are outweighed by the promise of making white supremacy great again. Trumpian doctors have diagnosed that Europe will soon be non-Europe due to an influx of refugees from countries Europe ruled, plundered, or otherwise destroyed. Great replacement will not make Europe great again, they say, if white peeps are replaced with peeps of lesser whititude. They go on to recommend leaving Arab despots be, in order not to meddle in their internal concerns. As for Europe, that's not meddling. It's just encouraging the freedom of fascism. The Supreme Court says it's okay for Texas to do white supremacy and transform the U.S. into Magalandia. Do not adjust your set. That's the sound of Nelson Mandela and MLK rolling over in their grave. Israel, the only country that has a right to exist, continues its attacks on the West Bank, which is not a real bank. They will build 17 more settlements to make sure that Palestinians don't drive Jews into the sea. The other way around is better, and in fact ordered by God, apparently. The most promising Palestinian leader, Marwan Barghouti, is being gradually beaten to death in an Israeli prison. But he has a foreign name, and Americans have a short attention span. Russia has bombed power plants throughout Ukraine and endangered the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station. But these acts are justified because Western imperialist powers are threatening an Eastern imperialist power. Plus, Russia has a strongman making it great again, which makes him a great leader, like Orban. Wrestling executive Linda McMahon had to wrestle with protesters in New Jersey as she brought her God-centered U.S. history roadshow to Colts Neck. The presentations studiously avoid mention of racial groups that are victims or victimizers based on race. The New York Times reports that this runs the risk of whitewashing ugliness in history. No, New York Times, there is no risk. There is only intent. In related Don't Educate news, the U of Alabama has suspended student publications aimed at black and female students for causing some students to feel unwelcome. They stated, "We will never restrict our students' freedom of expression, except for right now." The U also closed gathering places for minorities. All this due diligence will make Alabama great again, like in 1950 or 1850. Women and blacks will now be free to abandon their divisive attitude and behave like regular racist sexists. Co-eds, don't be hotheads. Race, know your place. The Chinese government has succeeded in canceling a Chinese dissident film festival in New York and censoring art exhibits in Bangkok and Manila. Now, this does not mean that the United States should go to war with China, but neither does it mean that progressives should paper over suppression when they see it. If the untrammeled surveillance by the CCP were traceable to Israeli technology, we would all be quick to condemn. This just in, it is. The D.C. killings by the formerly CIA soldier, now shooter, have prompted the White House to begin the export of all Afghans in the U.S. And while they're looking for them, they will dispense with all Somalis, especially those in Minnesota, which is a shithole state full of garbage people. We have recently learned that Congresswoman Ilhan Omar is garbage.
Ilhan Omar, whatever the hell her name is, with the little shoe, the little turban.
Of course, we learn a lot of things that are not only untrue, but are arguably true of the person who taught us the alleged things. AIDS Day has been canceled, but only in the U.S., where it competes unfairly with the government's promotion of AIDS through carefully curated funding cuts. A series of rude, illegal disruptions of God's ICE squad from New Orleans to New York has raised the question, is the government being disrupted also rude and illegal? And are the civil disruptors sinking to the level of the Trump putsch, or more like rising to the occasion? A thinker.
You can all stand up to ICE if you know your rights. If you encounter ICE, these are the things that every New Yorker should know. First, ICE cannot enter into private spaces like your home, school,